everyone, and welcome to the day of the letter F. Excuse me, I gotta go get the door. Okay, can you forgive me? I know you checked in probably 30 seconds ago and I've been distracted. Uh, can you forgive me? I guess maybe since I think you are, we can talk about that word today. Forgive. Okay, I think our F word should be forgive. Not the negative connotation that F word gives, because I think forgive is a strong, powerful, maybe intimidating word for some of us, but I think it is a word that we all should become familiar with and go through that challenge of applying it to our life. Because I think forgiveness, having been a kid in care, having been a child who experienced hardship from hard places and from people who had so much hurt and then shared that hurt, I think my biggest freeing aspect has been through forgiveness. And I think in this COVID-19, we see so many things that are heavy and hearted and hurt, that we have to learn that sometimes one of our protective factors is forgiveness. But forgiveness is not easy. It can be quite a challenge. I mean, forgiveness really takes a lot of skills and time. It's a strong medicine, though, for things we have endured. The first step in forgiveness is really finding that mercy for others and being able to see the value of a person separate from their behaviors. That person is still a person, no matter who they are, and yet their behaviors may not be allowable, okay, or justifiable. And being able to separate that provides some freedom to where it opens us up for forgiveness. Forgiveness, remember, is a path. It is not something that's straight from A to B. Sometimes I think of forgiveness as forgiving fitness. It's a fitness where, just like on my journal, getting fit done, it's like getting fit in forgiveness. And it's weight. This is my weight, and like I have to lift it time and time again to really get fit in it. It's something where we have to practice and endure time and time again. Sometimes I think we hear the word forgiveness and we think it's like here to here, and it's not. We have to get fit in forgiveness to get to that point where we are not inflicting harm, where we are finding things valuable, where we are smiling no matter if the day is good or the day is bad. We're smiling from joy instead of situations. Healing. Forgiveness also can help lower depression, anxiety, and anger, but you really have to get fit in it. You have to practice it day in, day out, day in and day out. And you have to sometimes lift those weights that are so darn heavy on the inside and the outside, time and time again in repetition. And sometimes you fail, and you are okay in that failure and forgiving yourself with that. Another part of forgiveness, from mercy, getting fit, and then addressing pain. So it's one of those things, if there's an elephant in the room, you kind of got to talk about it. So acknowledge the elephant in that pain to be able to process it towards forgiveness. Finding meaning is also a really big tool in forgiveness. So when we talk about grief, and you think of the 5 stages of grief, and the grief in this COVID-19 that's going on, the grief maybe you have endured, or if you're at home, or the struggles you've been in, the grief that you are entangled with, there's another step after grief, and that is meaning. And that's being able to not forget what that grief was and how you processed it, but it's a stage of healing where you're able to get short-term and long-term goals from what you've encountered in that struggle to excel in your life. That gives that meaning through forgiveness. And sometimes we have to forgive with others. So having somebody there, texting your friend, calling your friend, talking to a loved one, sometimes using a text system to where you can call somebody at the crisis line, which is 741-741, and talk to somebody about, I'm having a hard time forgiving on this, and I need to have another ear. That's a process of forgiving, is talking to another person. And then the last step is honoring yourself. And so a big person we may need to forgive is ourselves. And I can say that can be sometimes the hardest person to forgive. Sometimes we can sit there and say we'll forgive other people, but we are real critics of ourselves, and challenging that and realizing that we all are perfectly imperfect and forgive ourselves. Again, I've said this before, for every negative, we need 3 positives, and that includes for ourselves. And for our children, being able to forgive of the perspective that you do for your children. So our son, when he was young, he would look at me and he'd say, he'd be so mad, and he'd say, I hate you, Mom, and he would get so angry and run off to his room. And then he would come out later and he would be crying or upset and really trying to regulate his emotions. And I remember I would forgive what he'd said, even though it had hurt. I would forgive what he did. And being able to do this process to forgiveness, to be able to forgive the world the way we do our children, the way I did in that moment, is something to continue to seek. So let's go ahead and pull up our screen of what we can do for our journal for that process of forgiveness. So whenever I can pull this one up here. So remember that forgiving is a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings or resentment or vengeance. It does not mean that you are forgetting or excusing a behavior. Forgiving is something that frees us. And then regardless of whether they deserve it or not, because this is really about us than the person who maybe impeded a struggle or a challenge. And remember that forgiveness is a process. There is no rush in this. There is no hurry to get mercy, to get fit, to address the pain, to find meaning, to forgive with friends, and to forgive ourselves. And so for your journal, I want you to reflect on a time you've been forgiven and find some joy in how it felt for you. And then journal about something you have experienced that may need or have entailed forgiveness. And then finally, I want you to explore and identify 1 to 2 things you could do to move towards forgiving yourself or someone else. Just taking those first couple steps in forgiveness and getting fit into forgiveness. I think forgiveness is a great word, and it's one of the most freeing that we can have. And so I'm pretty excited about that in your process that you're going to be taking. So excuse me while I go get fit and get some more marshmallows, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Bye.